Attacks of this kind, or attempts to carry them out against our country, cannot remain within the scope of ordinary responses. It's no coincidence that Sergei Viktorovich Lavrov clearly articulated our position. There will be a response. And that response will go beyond the usual limits and assessments. Games are over.
While the rest of the civilized world was ringing in the new year with family, friends and, actual celebration, Russians were busy cooking up more nonsense. This time, Putin in his very own palace became the target of fake FPV drone attacks. Yep, the internet is already flooded with videos showing these massive drone assaults, all totally staged, of course. New year, new Russian nonsense. I'm Sofia and this is Spin Snipers, where we slice through Kremlin drama and serve up the hard facts fast. The last days of 2025 were apparently traumatic for Russians, at least according to them. They claim Ukraine tried to attack Putin's Valdai residence in the Novgorod region. And get this, his loyal minions say the attack involved 91 drones. 91! That's a lot of drones for a holiday drama. Even more ironic, these attacks popped up the day after Volodymyr Zelensky had a successful trip to the US, where he met with Donald Trump. Because of course, why not to blame Ukraine for your own timing mishap? And in classic Kremlin style, they are now saying this changes Russia's position in peace talks with US about, you guess it, ending the war.
What should we do in this situation? I am addressing the Minister of Defense and the personnel of the armed forces with a strong request to take revenge for our Supreme Commander-in-Chief. It must be understood that this attempt was aimed not only at eliminating our President, our Supreme Commander-in-Chief. The calculation was simple. By destroying Putin, we would then be forced to look for someone to replace him. That would mean time lost, the collapse of all negotiations, a halt to the pace of the offensive, and ultimately, forcing us into a humiliating defeat.
And of course, Russian TV wasted no time calling for revenge. Naturally, the culprits were not just Ukraine. Oh no, according to Kremlin talking heads, it's Europe's fault. France and the UK are apparently behind these attacks. Really? Because I honestly thought the masterminds behind this little holiday drama were just the Kremlin's own FSB daydreams.
So where is Zelensky supposed to go? He can't run to those who allegedly gave him the targets and instructions. They won't take him in. That leaves him with only one option: Germany. But Germany couldn't have been involved. It doesn't have the necessary military capabilities. There are only two countries that could have provided this kind of support, and they're saying, don't run to us. One is the United Kingdom, and the other is France. These are the only two countries in Europe and NATO that could have given him such capabilities.
And to really prove their point, Russians went full-on viral with a video of the attacks. Naturally, it was AI-generated, but of course they're attacking like it's 100% real evidence. Take a look for yourselves. Putin and his cronies were so relaxed that the whole attack on his residence, which, spoiler alert, never happened, was staged in the most ridiculous amateur way. Just look at the size of these FPV drones they digitally drew. I didn't think these drones could get that big, but apparently they can. Just not in real life, only in the minds of Russians. And as I said before, the Russians immediately went back to their favorite pastime, threatening. not just Ukraine, but her allies too.
What should we do? We should do the same thing Netanyahu does. Use everything we've got. If we need to use Oreshnik, then we use Oreshnik. If we need to use Poseidon, we use Poseidon. It doesn't matter who supplied weapons to these scumbags. Whether it's Britain or Germany, it makes no difference. This is a direct war, and it must be answered accordingly.
For us, Ukrainians, it's pretty simple and obvious. This whole attack on Putin and his resident story is just a stage show, a setup to justify attacks on a peaceful Ukrainian cities. Russia's top TV propagandist Solovyov has already announced retaliation, targeting Ukrainian cities, of course. But here is the thing. Russians are already shelling Ukraine every single day with missiles, drones and guided bombs. Dozens of Ukrainians are killed or injured every week, whether in Odessa, Kharkiv, Sumy or Zaporizhia.
I strongly advise residents of Kyiv, Odessa, Kharkiv, and Sumy to leave these cities. First and foremost, this is an address to the people of Kyiv. Because in the event, and I believe there is no doubt about this, of strikes on so-called decision-making centers, given the incompetence of Ukrainian air defense, there is a high probability that you could suffer from chaotic launches carried out by poorly trained crews operating poorly equipped air defense systems. Leave these cursed cities. They are infected with the bacillus of Nazism.
And while the Russians keep insisting the attack actually happened, not even Donald Trump, who's usually pretty friendly toward Putin, bought it. Western media, citing intelligence sources, reported that US intelligence found no evidence to back Russia's claim of a supposed strike on President Putin and his residence. Later on, Trump himself commented on it, basically confirming what the spies already said. There is nothing there.
I don't believe that strike happened.
Right. So Putin had said in that phone call to you that that strike happened. You came out and said that, and you believed Putin. There was some criticism.
There is something that happened fairly nearby, but had nothing to do with this.
Why did you believe Putin in that moment and then go say that about Ukraine?
Because nobody knew at that moment. I mean, that was the first I heard about it.
So why not?
He said that his house was attacked. We don't believe that happened, as now that we've been able to check.
Yeah.
But that was the first we ever heard about it.
And since this is our first episode of the year, it's fitting time to note that Orthodox Russians just celebrated Christmas in early January. And on this special day, none other than the bloodthirsty dictator Putin, the guy who brought the war to a peaceful neighboring country and is killing not just Ukrainian civilians, but even his own people for his imperial ambitions, decided to address the nation. Among all the usual nonsense, he openly said that Russia started the war on God's orders. I mean, wow! I'll let you hear that gem for yourselves.
Today, we celebrate the wonderful, bright holiday of the Nativity of Christ. And very often we call the Lord the Savior, because he once came to earth to save all people. And in the same way, Russian soldiers, the warriors of Russia, have always carried out this mission on the Lord's behalf. The mission of defending the fatherland, of saving the homeland and its people. And throughout all periods of Russian history, this is how soldiers have been viewed, as people who, as if on God's instruction, carry out this sacred mission.
Honestly, hearing this just makes you feel sick. The whole story, Putin in a church telling kids about a holy war, is peak cynicism, especially saying this on Christmas. And are we even sure Putin is the kind of person who can seriously discuss such things? Saving the motherland and its people, sure. But exactly who are Russian soldiers saving people from while killing Ukrainians and grabbing more territory? What is Russia, a nuclear power, mind you, so afraid of from Kyiv? As they say, there are more questions than answers. Actually, there are answers, and luckily, we have them. And so you do. It's just that over the border, it's impossible to get through. Meanwhile, Russian talking heads are busy blaming Zelensky for the very crimes their own dictator committed.
I don't think Zelensky plans to stop at some point and quietly live out his days somewhere with a lot of money. No. This is the psychology of a deranged, second-rate actor who believes he's living through the best years of his life. And if, in order to stay at the peak of fame, he needs to sacrifice millions of Ukrainians, he doesn't care. He doesn't care at all about their lives. There should be no illusions about this. We are dealing with a raging psychopath suffering from a severe form of drug addiction.
Really? Because here is what we all know. Putin is just desperately trying to cling to power by any means necessary. It's Putin who doesn't care about the lives of his own people, throwing them into the front lines by the dozens to push the front line a kilometer forward or to grab a tiny patch of forest land. And by the way, for Russians, 2026 is shaping up to be the year of war. Peace? Not on the agenda. They want to fight, and for that, of course, they need a strong economy.
That is why I would like everyone to hear what the Supreme Commander-in-Chief has said. We need to reach growth rates above the global average. Without this, it will be extremely difficult to fulfill the fundamental principles of conducting military operations, namely the combination of military and economic power, which alone can lead to victory, especially given that we are facing, well, now the position of the United States is unclear. As we understand it, it will become clearer over the coming months. The overall power confronting us is very significant.
Meanwhile, while Moscow dreams of growth rates above the global average, the reality on the ground is grim. In 2025, 266 villages officially disappeared in Russia. And the year before that, over 300 more settlements vanished from the map. This shocking data comes from the Center for Countering Disinformation at Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council. The highest number of these disappearances is recorded in the Kostroma region, which has held this grim lead for the second year in a row. Significant numbers are also coming from the Novgorod region and Perm Krai, areas far away from the actual war zone. And here is the key point. A village does not just vanish overnight. Before it's officially erased from the map, there are decades of decline. The Russian state simply refuses to invest in its own rural regions, letting them slowly die out. But at the same time, Russians are told that sanctions don't matter and that the war must go on. So let me this straight. Entire villages are disappearing inside Russia while the Kremlin is busy trying to seize a few more kilometers of land in Ukraine.
Why are voices now being heard in the West saying that we should negotiate with the Russians? Because they understand that the bet, as Obama once put it, on breaking the Russian economy has failed. And because, as they say, despite everything, the factor of momentum is starting to work. The Russians will, in any case, win the war on the battlefield.
Those are the kind of fairy tales Russian TV is feeding their audience. But we all know the truth. Gaining a couple of 100 kilometers in almost 4 years of full-scale war is a strategic failure, not a victory. That's it for today. While the Russian propaganda machine keeps running, we'll keep exposing their lies. I'm Sofia, and this was Spin Snipers. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and don't fall for the spin.